This is why I don't miss having friends and why I no longer get lonely. I'm currently 28 years old, but in my late teens, I had a strong friend group. But it turned out to mostly be built on lies. People either hung out with me because I had something they wanted, they felt sorry for me, or just out of convenience. Or a genuine friend who grew to hate me over time out of jealousy, or building resentment through constant proximity, or just wanting to distance themselves from me because they think I'm losing my mind or something. Or even a decades-long friendship that falls apart due to a social faux pas that the other person is just simply not willing to move past. In the end, I was left with one good friend who ended up moving 800 miles away and dozens of acquaintances that I don't even trust. From this experience, I learned a few key things that helped me feel more comfortable with solitude, and now, loneliness is a thing of the past. First, I'll summarize how a few of my friendships ended up falling apart, and how I learned when to walk away. Now, I know how much it sucks to feel like you're the only person putting any effort into the relationship, and that's why you should stay through till later in the video, because I'll be discussing a method that I learned to use that allows you to increase your perceived value in a friendship or relationship in the eyes of the other person. And at the end of the video, I'll discuss how I ultimately defeated my loneliness. First, my oldest friend, friend A. We were friends for 16, 17 years. I still consider us friends, but we don't really talk anymore. We hung out all the time, all through middle school and high school, after high school, got along great. He really was a very compassionate person that put up with my insecurities and my depression, even when he had to walk on eggshells and feel uncomfortable around me. And don't get me wrong, he made me feel uncomfortable sometimes too. But we had so much fun together every time we hung out that it just made up for it. Now, over the years, as adults, we kind of grew apart because I was really focused on my business and I had very little time to hang out. And he's struggling with addiction and working a 9-to-5 job. But every few months, we would have some time to hang out. But then one day, we went hiking together and we had eaten some special chocolate along with some drinks. So we were kind of in another state of consciousness. And we met this guy on the trail and I had a conversation with him. And what ended up happening is the guy saw me as being really drunk and he thought I needed an intervention. He thought I had a problem. And I rarely drink these days. And I just felt like it was totally ridiculous. And I kind of, in my stupor, deflected the focus of the attention away from me and onto my friend because I felt like he needed help more. And it turns out that was the wrong thing to do. My friend, very sensitive about it, and he had a very, very, very hard time forgiving me. And I apologized up and down all over the place as much as I could. I begged his forgiveness. I admitted I was wrong. And he just kept bringing it up over and over again every time we hung out. And eventually, I just thought, like, I've apologized enough, man. Like, it was a social faux pas. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. But he just couldn't move past it. And at a certain point, I just decided, well, it's on him. And I just focused on my stuff and my work. Now, we have hung out a couple times since then, and he brought it up again the first couple times, didn't bring it up the last time. We tried to make plans again several months ago, and the conversation died over text because I was trying to ask, hey, when do you want to do this? When's a good time for you? Just got no response. So I just figured I don't want to be the needy friend who's begging to hang out. I'm busy, I have a life. I don't need anybody. Now, my second oldest friend, friend B, we also were friends from middle school. Our whole friend group was kind of built around soft drugs and psychedelic experiences. And me and friend B were also totally into internet culture, and we like to commiserate about people at school. We had a similar sense of humor. We both loved Angry Video Game Nerd. We both had a similar personality. And over the years, as my insecurities developed more and I became more obsessive about my height and stuff like that, he was constantly trying to reassure me that, hey, dude, you're really good looking though. And he was insecure about how his face looked. So over the years of me complaining about my height, because back then I hadn't yet embraced being a little pretty boy yet, you know, I still wanted to be the big manly man. So after high school, we started living together. We both rented a room at my dad's place. and we were hanging out all the time whenever I came home from my college classes. There were a few things that made him start resenting me over time looking back. The constant contact, the feeling that you've got nothing to complain about, you've got everything I could want. And on top of it, he was jealous that I had received some help from my grandfather to help me pay for college. And I recognize that that's a great privilege that I have that a lot of people don't. But he did have a trust of his own. He just wasn't able to access it until he was 23. But as a result, he just stayed inside all day and played League of Legends and felt like he was going nowhere with his life. And he ended up going to jail for 3 months. And that's when everything changed forever, because he started to try and become this tough guy persona, get all these tattoos. He pretty much became an asshole. And by the time he got out of jail, he was a completely different person. But I was too, because while he was in jail, I had snapped. And in 1 minute, I went from becoming a wannabe alpha male who wanted girly girls to being a submissive little pretty boy who enjoys being tiny and being towered over by tall, masculine-looking women. So when he got out, we hung out one last time, and I had shared with him about my changing preferences. Little did I realize he also liked tall women, so now he was probably thinking, oh great, now I have to compete with this guy. And I could tell he really didn't like that. So on top of that, we got into a big argument about something, I don't remember what, and then I never heard from him again. And I heard tons of stories from other people about how he treated them like crap too. So you got to realize when it's the other person's problem and not you. Now my other friend C, also from middle school, we were great friends. He stopped wanting to be friends with me as much once I started becoming a stoner. We went to separate schools, we went our separate ways, and then we became friends again after college when I had started my business and he had started his accounting job, and we started hanging out. He would come up from San Francisco to visit every few months and we would discuss things. But then things started to go downhill for me in my business, and when we hung out, I had a lot of bad news for him. And at a certain point, I told him about my conspiracy about how rich people are trying to stunt the growth of the lower class over generations. And he just decided that I probably had schizophrenia and just cut me out of his life. That said, he still watches my Instagram stories every once in a while, so it's a little strange. I texted him again a few months later saying, hey man, how you doing? Got left on red. After that, never contacted him again. And I didn't feel an ounce of guilt or shame or regret at all, because I've got better things to do anyway. The final friend I'll talk about, friend D. He wasn't as close of a friend as the other ones, but he was still in that stoner group. And he hung out with friend B and A and I at my dad's house back when we were like 18, 19. I mean, we all made some incredible memories together, had some amazing times. And after I stopped hanging out with friend B, I started hanging out with friend D more. And I would go to his house. I bought him a video game that we could play together. I would bring him various cannabis products that we could indulge in together. And that was during my heavy drinking days, so I usually got drunk when I was there. He never really came to my house because he didn't have a car, and my house kind of sucks. I always felt like every time we hung out, we had great conversations, we had a good time, I enjoyed myself. Turns out I was the only one enjoying myself, and he was too much of a coward to tell me he didn't want me there. Now, granted, I wasn't 100% in my right mind during that time, and I did invite myself over a couple of times. But I still felt welcome. He didn't tell me to leave, and I thought we were having fun. But yeah, one time we got in trouble at his house. His parents came home early and found us doing stuff we weren't supposed to do. And all of those guys in that friend group pretty much blamed me. So I just said, screw you, and that was the end of it. I tried to contact a few of those guys in the larger group to try and get a hold of friend B and friend D after they pretty much ghosted me, because I still wanted to hang out, you know? But these guys just kept dodging me and ignoring my text. Finally, I saw one of them at the gas station, and I was like, hey man, what's going on? Where are these guys? And he says, I don't know. And I was like, well, tell him I'd like to talk to him. And he says, okay. Never heard from any of them. So like 8 years later, this guy, friend D, finds me on Instagram after I had started my business and everything. And he contacts me just to tell me how much of a weirdo and a freak I was, and how he hated me and he never liked me coming over. He only hung out with me because he felt sorry for me and that I was annoying and weird and disgusting, and he pointed out all the disgusting habits that I had at that time. And then he went on to brag to me about how he has his own house now, and he's a professional architect, and he has his own business, and he makes all this money, and that I'm just a loser compared to him. And that really, really pissed me off, because we all know that his dad was some kind of inventor who invented these amazing things, and he had all this money set aside that friend D had inherited when his dad died a couple years ago. So he's coming here and he's trying to pass off how he has his own house and all this stuff, and he's got a hot girlfriend and everything, as if he earned all that. So I just think, wow, I cannot believe that I thought you were my friend that whole time. That is just so messed up. And really, that was one of the big things that just made me stop trusting people a lot. So one of the biggest things I learned from all this is that you have to know when to give someone an ultimatum. To say, hey, if you don't stop doing this, I'm done. I've got other things to do. Or to know when the ball is in their court, when you've done all that you can do, when you've said what you need to say, and they're not responding, to know not to keep trying to get them to respond. Because if they're not interested, they're not interested, and they aren't worth your time. But before I tell you my best advice, I'd like to see what kind of stories you have. So if you've ever been betrayed or abandoned by friends, share your story in the comments below. So there were 2 audiobooks that I listened to that helped me learn how to manage my relationships and friendships more than anything else. And that is number 1, 48 Laws of Power, and number 2, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now this applies to both sales and relationships. Law 16 of the 48 Laws of Power states that once people begin to take you for granted, the best thing that you can do is distance yourself from them. Distance raises value. And just like in sales, the worst thing that you can do is be needy. Stop apologizing all the time. Have you guys ever noticed that you might have a particular friend who never seems to reach out first? You're always the one to ask to hang out or text them to ask them how they're doing. Well, stop doing that, because once you stop doing that, you'll finally realize who your true friends are, because your true friends will check in on you. The best thing I learned from How to Win Friends and Influence People is that when you're hanging out with somebody, don't talk about yourself the whole time. Focus as much as you can on the other person and wait for them to ask questions about you. This is something I had a very hard time learning, and it took me a long time to figure it out. But my papa always said, if you want a friend, be one. And I think I finally know what that means. As important as that is, don't put up with disrespect or having your time wasted. When people request ridiculous favors from you all the time and say, well, that's what a friend's supposed to do, that's a big red flag. A friend should not be a burden. In the end, it's better to be alone than waste time with people who don't add value to your life. So how did I overcome loneliness and the desire to seek out friendships and relationships? Well, once you've been mistreated and misunderstood enough times, you just stop caring. Managing your friend network should not feel like you're in Game of Thrones. I already have to deal with enough crap like that with my business. Now, we don't all have close loved ones and family members that support us unconditionally, but I do, and I've found that prioritizing loved ones and staying close with loved ones is a great way to suppress that lonely feeling. Now, having your own goals and ambitions is the most important thing. Because if you can do something like a side hustle or a brand or a business or a YouTube channel that takes up all your free time, that can be something that gives you fulfillment and joy without the need for other people. And it can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because you can develop a strong social network on social media and have this large network of acquaintances that follow everything you do and talk to you all the time, and it feels like you've got real friends. Because if you're honest and genuine and show when you're feeling down on your Instagram story, let's say, they might message you and check in on you, and that really, really helps. I swear, if I didn't have my branded social media, I would feel so much more lonely. But yeah, having this strong, ever-present social life to constantly maintain, it actually distracts from the ultimate goals in your life. So if you'd like to see more content like this, I have this video here about how I stopped caring about losing my virginity at the age of 28. And let me tell you, I went through so much anguish to get to the point of letting that go. It's an interesting story.